Welcome to our class on starting seeds in the winter in New England. My name is Kate and I'm here at Daisy Hill Farm in Acton, Massachusetts, where we grow lots of seedlings for home gardeners, and we also sell high mowing seeds and do some education, garden education. So welcome. Today we are going to be talking about what kinds of seeds you can start inside in late January to early February. So it's a pretty small window, and it's kind of exciting because with some lights you can grow your very own microgreens, pea shoots, which we adore, and you can start members of the onion family inside in the winter to transplant out in April. Onion family includes leeks, scallions, onions, shallots, and chives. There are really only a few basic materials that you need for seed starting: potting soil, seeds, containers, light, and water. I have suggestions for each of these, but really that's all you need. For potting soil, I suggest something like Coast of Maine, which is organic, and it's got a lot of soil organisms that are still living because it's not completely dried out. It's great. You can find it at local nurseries or hardware stores around you. Number two, seeds. The quality of the seed that you plant is really important. I suggest, if you can, getting organic seeds. If not, you can get other kinds of seeds. Number three, containers. Okay, this is fun. So, we've been getting a lot of takeout this year, so I often use takeout containers for seed starting. It's very simple, and you can manipulate any sort of container that maybe you've gotten some food in from the grocery store, or you can get a little more sophisticated and do something like a seed starting kit. These come in all sorts of sizes. They typically would come with a tray. This is called a 10-20 tray because it's 10 inches by 20 inches. It's really nice because it has ridges so that when the water drops in, it helps to let it dry out faster. And then there's some sort of an insert typically where you would put the soil and the seeds. Now it might be a full 10-20 insert like this, or you could use a variety of other, like 6-packs or 3-packs or whatever you have. And then finally, typically with a sort of little system like this, you also have what's called a dome. This is a dome. It's a clear piece of plastic that fits over the 10-20 tray. And what this does is it kind of keeps the moisture inside while the seeds are germinating. You remove it once you see the plants coming up. Number 4 is light. For many things, I suggest using grow lights or fluorescent lights with daylight fluorescent tubes. However, there are a couple of items that you can grow just on your windowsill, and these include pea shoots, microgreens, and the very beginnings of things like onions, leafy greens that you're not planning on growing to a big plant. Tomatoes do not do well in windowsills without additional light. And finally, water. I suggest having a watering can that has kind of a fine little spout. This is something I use all the time. I love this watering can. And if you're watering microgreens, it's helpful. And actually, any type of seed you're waiting for the seed to come up and you just need a little spritz, a spray bottle is really great. Okay, we are ready to plant some seeds. Let's do pea shoots. So got our potting soil, and you can get it out of the bag in any number of ways. Again, I use this kitchen spoon. I do like to put it in a container first so that I can chop up big chunks. So we've been doing some extra takeout this year. So I like to use these takeout containers. So I like to have 2 of these solid ones. One's going to be my tray for catching the water drainage. The other one is going to be my drainage tray. So I'm going to allow for excess water to drain out so that the seedlings don't become swamped with water. Okay, now I'm going to put the soil into this container with my spoon, or whatever, you know, you can use another pot, you could use whatever you want. You can use your hands. I think it's fun to use a kitchen spoon. My family disagrees. Now what I'm doing is I'm shaking and I'm tapping it down to sort of flatten it out. All right, now this container is approximately 6 inches by 8 inches. And what I determined today was that the best sort of seeding rate for pea shoots is about 3 seeds per square inch. I'm gonna sort of spread these around a little bit. What I'd like to show you is one that I took a little more time on earlier, which is this one. So this has 144 seeds, I think, for 48 square inches, 6 by 8. And this is about the seeding density for pea shoots. They're pretty thick when they come up. Again, I think before I mentioned that the seeds should be covered with approximately twice the depth of those seeds. So now I'm going to sprinkle on my topsoil here. Okay. And what I did earlier was I poked holes in the top tray for drainage, and the bottom tray is solid to catch that. Now I'm going to take my water. I'm going to water those seeds. It's pretty wet. Make sure my other seeds are out of the way so that they don't get wet. We don't want that to happen. You may notice some drippage, or might not, and that's all right. Now, the next thing is I want to put a little plastic top on here. This is not completely necessary, but it is helpful in the first few days before the seeds sprout to maintain a fairly constant moisture level. And then I would put this into a window or under some lights. So today we're going to go over to our little grow light station here. And what I've done here is I have some utility shelving from a sort of a big box, you know, home improvement store. And I have just 3 shop lights. I chained them up, and I'm going to put this under the shop lights. I want to come back over here and show you what happens after about 9 days. I seeded this little tray about 9 days ago, and here are these shoots. This I grew in a window, a basement window facing east, so not a ton of sunlight. I want you to contrast that. Same seeding rate and same day of planting. I want you to contrast that with these, which were under the lights. So what you can see here, these are the pea shoots that we just planted. Again, 9 days, and they're amazing. So this is actually a really great time to harvest. A really great time to harvest pea shoots, 3 inches long. What we're gonna do is a little cut. These are clean scissors, we've washed them. Gonna do a little snip about 1 inch away from the soil. And look at that, it's amazing. These are the best greens because they taste like spring snap peas. My daughter loves them. Here you go. You want a little crunch a little bit? She's filming. And I will as well. So you can use them as a garnish for different dishes, or you can use them as a salad. Oh, especially this time in the winter. 9 days under light. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, those are good. Now, again, this is probably the lowest light possible in the house. You could have this upstairs, you know, if I had this in a window that actually got sunlight or other lights during the day, it'd probably be really good too. But even these here, you can try them too, filmer, okay? Even these, same delicious taste, a little bit smaller, amazing. So what you do with pea shoots and cut them like this. And believe it or not, in 2 weeks, they're gonna grow right back. You're gonna do a second cut. Another 2 weeks, third cut. You can continue to let them grow after that, but they're gonna be a little bit more fibrous. I planted these outside last year in the garden in August. I think I actually cut 4 times. And then I let a bunch of them go to flower. And then it was so beautiful. We ate these really big succulent stems with flowers. It's incredible. So anyway, pea shoots, one of our absolute favorite vegetables at the farm because they're easy and they taste so clean and green, and they're just perfect. Pea shoots. All right, let's talk about microgreens. Microgreen is a term that is a really umbrella term for any seed type that is really super delicious and nutritious, harvested at an early stage. A lot of kales, radishes, basils, there's all sorts of microgreens. It's based on the idea that you plant the seed, and when the seed sprouts, when it starts to grow, it has 2 parts, okay? The root, which is going to be underneath the soil medium, and the important part to understand is the shoot. The shoot comes out of the seed, and it's going to go towards light. The very first leaves of a shoot are called the cotyledons. Now this is a pea shoot that we planted, and this pea shoot cotyledon is extremely small, but these are, so the cotyledon first, and then what's called the first true leaves. Now I'm going to pour about 1 inch of soil into my container for the microgreens. Shake it and even it out. Oh, still some little clods there. And then what I'm gonna do next, a little different than other seeds, I'm gonna just sort of pat it down a little bit. Make it a little bit tight. Would you like to zoom in here, please? Thank you so much. Again, there's all sorts of different kinds of microgreens. What we're gonna use today is red Russian kale, one of my favorite plants, and an excellent microgreen as well. If you are using small seeds, such as the red Russian kale, and I want to show you this right here. Can you come on in? All right, so these are pretty small. This is a typical brassica seed looking thing. So you're gonna have all broccolis are gonna look like this, different kales. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is kind of spread these over the soil. I don't want to cover the soil completely because when they germinate and start to grow, they need a tiny bit of airspace. These are small seeds, so you should plant approximately 10 to 12 per inch. No one's gonna count that out. Instead, we're just gonna do this approximation. Next, I am going to gently pat or push these seeds into the soil. Uh-oh, some of them are gathering too close. That's okay. I'm gonna use my spoon to spread them out, or your hands, of course. Beautiful. I'm gonna put it into my tray. After you have pushed your seeds into the soil, your microgreen seeds into the soil, use a spray bottle and give it a gentle water. Next, cover those seeds. I suggest using a paper towel. Use a piece of cloth or a very small layer of soil if you prefer. I'm going to give that a gentle spritz. Perfect. Now, this can go into a sunny window location or under grow lights. Check it every day or so to make sure the soil is still moist. If it's not, a little spray. When the seeds start to germinate, remove the paper towel. Some of the seed casings may come off with the paper towel. That's okay. It is fine. The microgreens will continue to grow. You can harvest them probably in about 2 weeks after planting. You can harvest them when the first 2 true leaves come out. The third seed type that we're going to plant today is onion, or allium, and there's all that onion family. Something else that you can plant in February is parsley. and celery. So those plants also take a really long time to grow and be ready to put into the ground. This is a tray that I actually really use for seed starting. I used to use a smaller one when I was just doing a few starts long ago, but now that I grow a lot of seedlings, I use a giant tray like this. What I do is I take my soil, actually dump it right in, potting soil, and it all fit in there. That's all right. And then I rifle through it a little bit. Make sure, again, I'm breaking up those clumps. It's really nice to work with this large amount of soil all at once. I'm going to plant some onions. I'm going to grab a 10-20 tray, and I'm going to use some pots. So what I prefer, and you can do this again in much smaller containers, but I prefer to use these pots for onions because I'm just going to kind of leave them there until I plant them outside. If I planted them in some smaller containers, they would need to be what's called potted up. So transplanting them in from a small container into a larger container before moving them outside. But I really like to, for the onions in particular, just to do one pot. So what I've done here is I put some soil in, and what I'm just going to tap it down so that there aren't any large air bubbles. Put it in my 10-20 tray, and then I'm going to plant some Walla Walla sweet onions. Open up my seed packets, quite simple. I like to see kind of how many I plant. I will spread probably 20 to 30 seeds right in there, very simple. And then I'm going to put, they're pretty small seeds, so I'm just going to cover them with about a 1/4 inch of soil. Tamp it down. Walla Walla is going to get its label. I really like to know what I've planted where. These are pre-printed labels that I have, but if I didn't have them, I would take a pencil, not a pen, not a permanent marker, but a pencil, write right on the label, put it in, and again, a quick water, and we're ready to go. This would be covered with a dome until those seeds germinate. When they germinate, under the lights, these go under the grow lights, take off my dome and continue to water them as needed. Onion. Thank you so much for joining us today for our mid-winter seed planting class, and I wish you a wonderful season and a very healthy spring. Take care. Be well.